Big play, big play. A1.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to A1 Forever Sports. Now, let's just get right to it. The Atlanta Falcons, yesterday, they fired head coach Raheem Morris after 2 seasons, but also they fired GM Terry Fontenot. Now, so you have on one side, Falcon fans can feel awesome. And then you have on the other side, it can feel a little bittersweet, depending on what Falcon fan you're talking to. But regardless, it really had to be done. Now, I am to a degree on the side of you can't continue to not get it right, okay? Because we've had so many coaches. We've had Dan Quinn, we've had Arthur Smith, now you got you had Raheem Morris, and after Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn did get us to the Super Bowl, but after that 2017 season, it just was going down further and further and further. Of course, as you know, if you're a Falcons fan or just been following Falcons football, and then you come in and you hire Terry Fontenot, but you don't allow him to hire a head coach, you're doing that. And then you're kind of putting those two guys together and forcing them to work with one another. I also don't think that was a good decision. But again, that's hindsight. Let's get back to current. The reason why I believe that Raheem Morris had to be let go was multiple reasons. And I don't have to necessarily outline every single reason because it really is so many. But you think about it. Let's talk about the first thing and the obvious thing, the failure to make the playoffs. The Falcons missed the playoffs again in 2025, extending that drought to 8 consecutive seasons, no playoff appearances, finishing 8-9 in both years. So yes, you did finish, with an extra win than Arthur Smith, but come on now, we definitely are hiring you and bringing you in to get more than just 7-10, but it can't be just the ceiling is at 8, and that happened in 24 and in 25. No winning records. Again, this is coming from a coach that came in saying, hey, if you guys just had a quarterback and guys was handling their business, I wouldn't even be here. Shots at Arthur Smith. So, but at the time, let's just be honest, Falcon fans, we loved it at the time. It sounded good. It's something that we needed, something that we wanted to hear. A head coach saying, hey, I'm going to come in and get it done. But also, in this tender, you have losing streaks that just could not be overlooked. I understand about winning the last 4 games. Oh, that's fine. That's great. You're getting that chemistry. You having those prideful wins, because we had been eliminated ever before like around Thanksgiving. So we've been eliminated from the playoffs. We're just playing for pride, playing spoiler, if you will. And while that may sound cool to some people, it honestly, for most Falcon fans, that's not cool. So you have that issue. Then let's talk about the inconsistencies in the in-game management. In-game management, clock miscues. We got heavily mocked behind Raheem Morris decisions in critical moments. The national media, local media, every media, talking about the inconsistencies, the lack of postseason wins, again, the lack of improvement. Raheem Morris was 16-18 in his record with the Falcons. Of course, we didn't reach the playoffs. Minimal coaching success. Now, the players, they do have to go out and execute, but the coaches have to put the players in the best in-game situation, winning the game within the game. Players have to execute, but the plays have to be on point too. Everyone has to do their job. And again, now moving on, you get into the game strategy, also the staff hiring 2 young, inexperienced coordinators, Zach Robinson, Jimmy Lake. So really, you kind of wasted time in 2 seasons with these young guys. It kind of dooms you from the start, because why would you bring in 2 inexperienced guys outside of one, either trying to build your own coaches tree and help other guys out and be like, okay, they came from the Raheem Morris coaches tree, or maybe just not wanting guys to be able to factor in certain decisions or have a certain voice. Then you also have the fact about the fans and the backlash the fans had. I mean, you think about it. I've seen worst clock management ever, inability to coach in key moments, personality and leadership style deemed as ineffective. Like it's all those things, so you're getting from the fan base, and Arthur Blank had to look, take notice to all that. Also, it was the fact that Arthur Blank looking and he's seeing what the stadium looked like for the Falcons in the Aints game. That stadium was not filled yesterday, okay? The stadium was mostly empty for the most part. Like normally you have times where fans are just other places in the stadium. It was not that. Arthur Blank definitely had to take notice of that people are just checking out. And you don't want your fans to check out for whatever reason. Okay? Also, he's talking about Raheem Morris still. He's not viewed as an NFL caliber head coach. Some guys are better as coordinators than head coaches. Some guys are just it. And maybe Raheem Morris is one of those guys. We know what he can do as a coordinator. He's won a Super Bowl. But in really like 2.5 stints, because if you want to give him the half would be the interim term back when he was with the Falcons after Dan Quinn got fired. But you seen what happened in Tampa. Okay, young guy, didn't understand kind of the game, want to come back and get right. All right. So you had that opportunity in 2020, but they still didn't retain you because you didn't get it done, which made no sense to really like bring you back after you got the Super Bowl win as a coordinator. I still don't feel like that made any sense like that because it's just, I mean, you were on somebody else's team. But regardless, at the end of the day, the decision was made. Out of all the head coaches, you landed on Raheem Morris. That right there in itself should be studied because you had a lot of guys that right now are winning, that are going to the playoffs, that you interviewed, had in your building, and you still landed on Raheem Morris because of inside influence. Sounds similar to what happened when you drafted Desmond Ridder. More inside influence, but I digress. Let's talk about Terry Fontenot. Bittersweet with Terry Fontenot. No winning seasons in 5 years, and I have said so many times, what Fortune 500 company, what serious company that is serious about making money in business and winning games are going to keep a guy who has had 5 years of no success? Like now, Falcon fans, we feel like we've had success. You think about we got 4 starters in this last draft. We got Brandon Dorlus in the last draft, and and others. My thing is, I'm looking at his last 3 drafts. Terry Fontenot, I believe, did a better job considering over instead of his first 2, because I believe he was still learning how to be a GM and learning how to pick talent and all that good stuff like that. We knew he had the salary cap. We knew he could like scout some things, but ultimately being that GM, I feel like that was something that Terry Fontenot was learning how to do on the job, along with being a part of this front office. So, unfortunately, under Terry Fontenot, we were 37-48, 0 postseason appearances over 5 years. Now, again, he's not coaching, he's not calling the plays, none of that stuff. He is in charge of the groceries. You hate it because you knew that these guys were tied at the hip. And you knew if one had to go, the other one was going to have to go too if it was just disastrous. And ultimately, you were 1 win. All you needed was 1 win, and you're in the playoffs. 1 extra win. That can't be overlooked. Over 2 seasons, you had a 4-game losing streak and a 5-game losing streak. Can't be overlooked. The whole thing with signing Kirk Cousins to that big contract and still drafting Michael Penix Jr. A lot of people seen that as poor planning, mixed signals, organization malpractice. So you think about that, that's another thing that went into it. So I could put in the fact about Kirk Cousins costing us a draft pick. That still happened under your watch. So again, it's like, even with the drafts, like I said, the tampering, also just not winning, it's really hard to keep a guy who hasn't won, even though he's trying to make the best scenarios and the best situations for the team. Ultimately, we just did not get it done. Team performance. Said under Raheem Morris, game mismanagement problems, strategic questions, inconsistent results. And Terry Fontenot, draft, roster decisions, lack of playoff caliber roster, which I don't believe that. I believe we had a playoff caliber roster. The coach couldn't get us to the playoffs, and the players couldn't respond and be effective fully on a consistent level under this coaching. Then, of course, the fans. The fans played a huge part in all this happening, because a lot of the fans just checked out because they felt like the Falcons were not serious. So you have that. Then you also have the media presence that's getting involved in it, poking the bear, poking the bear, poking the bear. So you factor in all this. And then let's talk about Josh Blank, who's also involved in this too, because there are rumors that Josh Blank had something to do with Raheem being fired too, making the suggestion to Arthur like, hey, we probably need to move into another direction. So you have all this backing to fire these guys, and they didn't wait until Black Monday. They made it dark Sunday. And these guys were fired before 9 p.m. That's a first. And honestly, that shows me that Arthur Blank really is not playing. He's serious about trying to win, but I still had to see it for myself because of what you've done in the past. I can't just assume you're going to make a decision moving forward. I have to see it. Same thing I'm saying about if the rumors are true from Josina Anderson about Arthur Blank wanting to take back his organization, want to take back his building. Well, if you do want to do that, then sometime soon, I'm going to be expecting to hear possibly something about Rich McKay. I mean, we're going to see. What that right there, I will have to see it to believe it, and I will believe it when I see it. So we're going to see what happens moving forward, but it had to be done, guys. It had to. I understand, like, it doesn't look like we're a functional, structural organization, and we're not. We're working on it, though. And this is a step that you had to take to try to work on it. Now, you look at the Steelers, you look at the Ravens, they've had guys there for well over 15 plus years, both of them. You can make the right decisions, but you have to make it now. You can't get this wrong anymore, Atlanta Falcons. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But that was my thoughts. Chris Tipmore, A1 Forever Sports. Until next time, y'all, peace and blessings to you all. Find your peace today. Now, most of y'all probably found it yesterday. But until next time, peace and blessings, and I'll holler.